Get excited. Y'all excited, Brownie?
Yeah.
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 All right, guys, what a great video this is gonna be. I'm gonna break down the differences and how to properly perform the squat, fancy letters, squat, and deadlift. These are two of the most important exercises in the game, and I see them very poorly executed. And Brownie, I think you would agree with me that these are difficult exercises. Would you agree?
I would.
I would, yes, concur. So anyway, I'm gonna give you guys some tips and tricks on how to properly perform this. If you're new to the gym, really spend the time perfecting movements. It's gonna be way better off down the road, and that's how you're gonna properly grow muscle and see better results. So let's get right into it here. Now, the deadlift. The deadlift, what a great exercise. So we're gonna kind of just go over some basic stuff. Before we put weights in our hands though, we're gonna go over the basic mechanics. Now, the stance can be very different. You can take wide sumo stance, you can take a narrow stance, you can take a shoulder width stance. The fundamentals are the same. You wanna have in a deadlift, slight bend in the knees. You know, you're kind of like bobbing around. You have this little bob going on, you know? You're never gonna be locked out. This is a no-no. You see that? We never wanna do this in a deadlift at all. That's a huge no-no. We wanna bend our knees, so it's gonna help our lower backs out a little bit, and it's gonna allow us to start the hinging movement. The deadlift is all about the hinge. So think of the line of force. There's a force going on when we're exercising, is a horizontal force. So see this line that juts out in front of me here? As you guys can see, as I'm coming down, my glutes are going out. Super important that my glutes go out. They're still high, they're not dropping. Sometimes I see a lot of deadlifts where people will bend their knees. We'll get to that. You wanna keep your knees bent, but they're not moving. This is actually quite stationary because it's a hip hinge thrusting movement. You're thrusting your hips forward. You're thrusting your hips forward. Try this at home right now. Have slight bend in your knee, stick your glutes out, back is flat, this is really important, core is tight, very important, and you're driving your hips up. Driving your hips up. Once you get that, that's where you can throw some weight into the play. If I have a barbell, the same principle applies as my glutes are going out and I'm thrusting up through. Glutes are going out, I'm thrusting up through. If I grab a dumbbell or a kettlebell, the mechanics do not change. Slight bend in the knee, hips are going out, glutes are going up, but you see how they're staying high and I'm thrusting through. That, my friends, is proper deadlifting mechanics. So the major points, one more time, just so you get it, is there's slight bend in the knee, the glutes are sticking out, the back is flat, the core is tight, and I'm squeezing my hips horizontally, this parallel force engaging the glutes. That is a proper deadlift. Now, let's move on to the squat. The squat, okay, this is a fun exercise. And boy, oh boy, it's quite different than the deadlift because let's go back to that line of force. Now we're gonna have a vertical line of force. This is where we have a lot of knee bend. So there's a lot of knee bend going on here, and the glutes, as you can see, are going down to up. Down to up. So you can see this line here, we have a vertical line. The force is vertical. I'm pressing and squeezing up. I'm driving my feet into the floor to squeeze myself up, as in the deadlift is that horizontal force. Very important. Now, the reason why the squat can be a little tricky is because you gotta have pretty decent hip mobility. One of the big things when you're squatting is you never, ever want your knees to cave in. That is a big no-no, a huge no-no. You have to keep your knees kicked out the entire time. Another massive tip is this 90-degree angle here. You see how my foot is flush and I'm driving through heel? If you get knee pain when you squat, the chances are that your heels are coming off of the ground and you're going forward, making this kind of V shape. That's a no-no. We really have to sit into the squat, chest up, core tight. That's a general rule for every exercise, chest up, core tight, as we drive through our heels, engaging our glutes. So, if you're new to the gym, I'd always recommend a goblet, which is a dumbbell squat, just so you can have the weight up in front of you and you can come down and up. I find that a barbell squat can be very tricky, especially if you have tight shoulders. You gotta have great shoulder mobility to be able to externally rotate and sit in the squat. So, once again, an overview of the squat mechanics is that it's a vertical line of force. The knees are bending and the glutes go down as we drive up through. You wanna make 90-degree angle from heel to knee, and you're driving through heel to engage the glute. You got all that, Brownie?
Yep.
So, practice, guys. Practice makes perfect. That's one of the best things you can do when you're performing exercises, is get really good at them. Really feel the muscles work. Take the time to set yourself up, because it's not about adding on all the plates. It's about the execution of the exercise that's going to get you the results that you want. Squats and deads are fantastic, but they're technically difficult. Those are the basic mechanics, guys, of the squat and the deadlift. Now, I know we have some great questions, so let's open up a Q&A. Brownie, what do you got?
I have a question.
Yes.
Which one, squat or deadlift, is better for growing glutes?
Ooh. This is an interesting question, and it's going to be probably a good debate, and it's pretty close. Now, the way I look at it is that when you're squatting, it's a fantastic glute exercise, but I do feel the majority of the working muscle is going to be the quads. When we lunge and squat, quads are so heavily used. It's very, very heavily used. You have to get really good at building the connection with the glutes in a squatting movement to really use them. So the deadlift, however, and I want to make this clear, because there's a difference between a traditional deadlift, which, by the way, I don't like, and what that means is it touches the ground, and something called an RDL, which is where you would stop mid-shin. Now, this motion right here, to me, the RDL, the Romanian deadlift, is going to be a superior way to deadlift for the glutes. We're going to have constant tension. There will be some hamstring in there for sure, but this is going to be pure glute contraction. So I would say that the RDL is much better if you really want to focus on glute recruit. Any more questions?
Yes, in fact. What happens if I get back pain when squatting or deadlifting? How can I fix it?
It's a great question, and I don't know if you remember, I mentioned this in the mechanics of the deadlift. Now, one of the things that most people, and I've seen this with my clients over the years, really struggle is this idea of what we call tabletop. And most people, when they bend over, watch this, they bend like this. You see that? So they're bending from the, like, almost like the upper stomach, and their back's like this. So you see this kind of hunching movement like this. So you can even see, this doesn't look really fun, right? No. You're really pulling with the back, because my glutes are like, they're not sticking out. The lower back is what's doing the work. So there's a good chance, if your lower back is hurting, that you're not hip hinging correctly. The other thing is that maybe your weight is too far out in front of you. So for example, if I'm deadlifting with a barbell and I have the bar out here and I pull up, boy oh boy, is my back ever gonna scream. When you deadlift, you wanna have that weight as tight to the body as you can. I'm almost dragging it up my legs. You see this? It's just completely connected to my body. Yes. So that's gonna be another great way to really help your back out. And of course, core engagement. One of the challenges in deadlifting and squatting is engaging your core. So that's something, and why you want to go lighter as well, to keep that core engaged throughout the lift. We got time for one more.
Thank you.
One more question.
My last question is, what's an appropriate range of sets and reps for these exercises?
Well, great question. I think it's going to ultimately come down to your goals. But these are big movements, which means I would always recommend hitting them in a volume fashion. Volume meaning a high number of sets, anywhere from 5 to 10 sets. I like to hit this exercise.
Wow.
With a moderate rep range. Something around 8 to 12 reps I find is really good. When it comes to deadlifting, I will definitely stay to a lower rep range. Like, I will probably do about anywhere from 8 to 10 on the deadlift. However, with the squat, I'll actually focus on a higher rep count, maybe more of a 15 to 25. I've learned over my years.
Why is that?
Well, I've learned over my years of training that your backside, which is called the posterior chain, can handle more load without risk of injury. It's kind of how we're built. Your deadlifting and your pulling movements, you can handle much more load compared to pressing movements like a chest press, a shoulder press, a squat. It's much more taxing on the joints. That's why I've always, for the anterior side, have lightened the load and higher the rep ranges. So either way, I like to hit these in a high volume of sets, 5 to 10. Rep ranges will be lower for the deadlift and higher for the squat. But ultimately, like I said, it depends on your goals and what you're trying to achieve. But really, really, I hope this video has really helped you guys learn the difference between the two. And I want to just reiterate one more time the importance of learning the mechanics and really making sure your form is on point before you ever attempt to go heavy. That is hands down the biggest mistake I'll see. So do yourself the groundwork, build the foundation, then you can stack the plates. And if you're not excited, get excited. Your boy Nuns.
No!